Hey everyone, and welcome back to the 4th episode of Advice by Architects. In this episode, we'll be talking about life after university. Sometimes it's really easy to get lost in architecture school, and in the blink of an eye, you've graduated. Then come all these new questions. How do I get a job? What do I do with my degree? Do I even want to be an architect? And that's what we're here to discuss today.
A few from our cohort made our journey to Japan for a bit of a holiday while we waited for our results.
Actually, I think I probably lost focus a little when I graduated. I think just for a little while I drifted off into treating it as a job. I didn't realise it at the time, but my challenge was to really get a little more focused again and remind myself about what I loved and why I loved it.
I wasn't thinking I would be using my Master's of Architecture degree immediately, and that was a bit stressful to think about, that I've invested all of this time and money and effort, and it looked like my immediate future did not call for this actual degree. There's a perception that studying architecture will get you a job in architecture, and at that point I learned that it gives you a set of skills which you can then diversify, and that's what led me into research, and that's what got me into my PhD, and that's what I'm currently doing at the moment.
When I graduated, the first thing I did was to work in an office and get my registration. And at that point, you're really in a good and strong position to say, look, in the end, I want to do design and throw myself into practice, or no, I really want to pursue research. Or, as you can see from this building, you can do both.
But certainly the advantages of having access to peers within the industry to review your work and to talk to about design-related problems is invaluable.
In this next segment, we have another question directly from a student. To paraphrase his question, he basically said that he didn't get the best grades at uni and doesn't know a single person in the industry. So what advice would you give to someone in that position?
I suppose one piece of advice would be not to stress too much. Stress can be quite have a quite crippling effect, particularly on the way that you present and sell yourself.
At least do something. You know, organise an exhibition or pick a topic that interests you and do some research on it. Or go and work in a trade. And if it's possible, keep active in the areas where you're passionate. Something will happen.
I think it's safe to say that there are many different paths that people can take after studying architecture. So what is it about your current occupation that steered you away from just practicing architecture?
At the time of my master thesis, what was happening was I needed to use a very specific set of software and a very well elaborated workflow to determine what would happen when architects get to involve mixed reality and virtual reality in their work. But working with that software and working on that workflow got me into thinking, what else are architects missing out on? And how can we use these things that are accessible to incoming architecture students to our advantage and make our lives easier?
While I was in practice full-time, I really missed reading books. And reading is a very important component of my current job. Reading, discovering, testing new ideas, comparing. I'm also enjoying having a broader overview of the discipline that is not just local, but it is global, in fact.
One piece of advice that I would give, which I definitely didn't take and I should have, but at least I should have taken more seriously, was find someone who's done something similar and hear from them what they wouldn't do. People will talk about their mistakes, and that's good within reason, but we end up repeating the same mistakes over and over.
So like I've said before, I really had no idea what I was going to do after architecture school. And to make things worse, it seemed like everyone else did. Looking back now, I'm really glad I took the time to try a couple of new things, and well, I guess I'm happy with where I am now. And I really hope that this series was able to help just a couple of you out there, because I know what it feels like to be pretty lost after uni. I'd recommend you just go talk to someone, or if you want, leave a comment, or even message me directly on Projects by People. The next episode is the final one of the series, and we'll be wrapping everything up with some thoughts on the future of the industry and some last pieces of advice.
Despite the historical moment we are immersed in, being an architect is always a great experience to live.